Welcome everybody to Make 2025 Your Best Year Yet. Please let me know in the chat if you can hear me okay. I'm just going to double check. I've got thumbs up. Thank you, Shang. I've got people coming in. It's nice to see everybody that's here already. Thanks, Beth. While we're just waiting for people to pop in, it'd be awesome if just in the chat, if you want to let me know where you are in the world today and what's the weather like. Next door. Yes, Beth is my neighbor, so it's very cool to have my neighbor across the hall join us today. Let me open up this screen. Brisbane, nice and warm. Sydney and raining. Oh my gosh, we had the craziest storm last night. It was about midnight, and I saw that there was a lightning strike that was only just a couple of 100 meters away from here. So it was pretty crazy. About an inch of rain in about 10 minutes. So that definitely was definitely a bit of an adventure while I was up in the middle of the night. Yeah, Melbourne, sunny and not hot. Okay, it'll probably change in 5 minutes since you're in Melbourne, since that's the story, isn't it? If you don't like the weather in Melbourne, wait for 5 minutes. Yeah. That's awesome. I've just got a couple of people connecting to the audio. I've got the waiting room on, so I'll just let people in as they come in. But yeah, also while you're here, I'd love to hear what is it that you would like to get out of the session today? What would be super helpful for you to, at the end of the hour that we have together, what would be the most beneficial for you to have as a result of our time together this morning? I have got some music lined up for thinking music for when we do some activities a little bit later. So hopefully you do have inspiration. Thank you, Beth. Hopefully you do have a notepad, some ideas. Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, it'd be really good if you've got a notepad and a pen, confident with the 2025 plan, something I know I can do. Well, we're definitely going to make sure that it's not going to be complicated. Everything that we talked through today, we're going to make it as simple as possible. Simplicity is one of my core values, and I feel it's part of my role to sift through lots of different things, find out what works, and then give it to you in the most simplest form that I can. So I'll probably wait another minute. We'll get it to the 5 past the hour, and then everybody else can catch up on the replay. But I may just be needing to let people in as they come and join us. Yeah, so it's the 11th here in Sydney. That has just gone so fast. I think if it's any indication of what the rest of the year is going to be like, I was going to say, let me know in the chat if you feel that 2024 was like the fastest year ever. It just feels like it was 3 months and it was gone. It's just been super, super crazy. And this year has definitely kicked off very fast as well. So I think that it's a good time. I think some people are back into the work mode already. Some people are still in holiday mode, but I think while we're still very early on in the year, it's a great time to have a think about how we can be intentional about the year ahead. All right, so we're 5 past the hour. Anyone else that comes in and joins us, I will let them in as they arrive. But thank you so much for coming and joining me today. Make 2025 your best year yet. Purpose of the day is to give you some inspiration, some tools to help get some clarity on what you want from the year ahead, and then also give you some tools to help you actually put that into practice as well, because it's all well and good to have a few ideas, but if we don't have the means in which to actually make them a reality, then it gets a little bit tricky. So again, if you've got a notepad and pen, would be great. I know some people like taking their notes on their phone or their iPad. There's a lot of research that shows when you actually handwrite that it actually creates a greater connection. So if you do have a notepad and pen, then that would be really awesome if you can actually use that for our session today. So I'm going to share a little bit about my story. We're going to share some stories throughout the session this morning. And then also there's going to be some work for you to do, some interaction there. And then also we're going to be talking a little bit about goals and intentions, and a little bit about some resilience building as well. So if you can make sure that you're free from distractions as much as possible for the next hour, I'll do my best to make sure that we're all wrapped up within the hour. And then I think on that, I'm going to just kick off with the session. So thank you for joining me today. So it was the 2nd of December, 1990. And I was standing on the edge of a backyard swimming pool. And it was a relative's place, so it was somewhere that I was very, very familiar with. And as I did every time I visited here, I like to just, instead of just cooling off in the pool, I used to really like just climbing up on the edge and diving in over and over and over again. And this didn't go unnoticed. So I was getting yelled at to stop, but being 12 and bulletproof and invincible, I'm sure you can remember what that was like. And so I completely ignored that. So what I did instead was I just kept doing that, climbing up, diving in. And I was being a bit of a perfectionist. And this one particular time I was standing there, I thought that I was splashing too much when I was diving in. So I stopped for a while and I thought, what could I do to make a perfect dive? And so I thought, what if I was able to keep my legs straighter and hold my feet together? I thought in theory that that could make a really nice dive. So I did exactly that. And I took a deep breath, dived in, and it felt like any other dive that I'd done before. And until I went to try and swim up to the surface, and I realized I couldn't move. So here I was, completely stuck. I didn't feel any pain, didn't feel like anything gone wrong, completely conscious, holding my breath, desperately trying to get my attention. My brother was in the pool at the time. He was 10 and a couple of other boys around the same age. And I held my breath for as long as I could, but then when I couldn't hold it any longer, I had to give in. And that panic turned into a moment of just sheer terror as I breathed in, my lungs filled with water, and I blacked out. Now, eventually the others realized something had gone wrong. They thought I was just mucking around, and look, they were just, 10-year-old boys. What you couldn't expect them to have realized something had gone wrong. But once they realized something had gone wrong, they raised the alarm for help. And it was later that night, in intensive care at the 3rd hospital that I was taken to, that a doctor came and told me that I'd actually broken my neck and drowned and that I'd never walk again. So what happened to me was a pretty extreme example of something not going to plan with extreme consequences. For most of the times when things don't go to plan, they may not have such extreme consequences. For you, it could be something not going to plan. It could be something as little as being late for a meeting. It could be something as major as a relationship breakdown or a business failure. But I think over the last 4 or 5 years, since 2020, we've all had a little bit of a taste of what it's like to have something change in our lives very quickly and when we have no sense of control over it. And even now, like as we're sort of heading into 2025, there's cost of living pressures, there's a lot of economic and political uncertainty, health issues, financial stress, there's a lot of challenges. And I think that it doesn't matter how well we plan, the reality is that things are not going to go exactly the way that we want them to. So today, to help you to make this the best year that you've had so far, no matter what goes wrong along the way, my intention is to give you some tools and to give you some inspiration and some motivation along the way to help you implement the tools that we work through. And so that you can do it yourself. Everything we work through, you'll be able to actually go and do yourself, but I'll also show you later in our chat how I can actually support you along the way if you'd like that extra assistance too. And so to begin with, if you've followed any of my social media or if you've seen any emails over the last week, I've popped some posts up about what the first rule of 2025 is. And so the first rule of 2025, if you haven't seen it, is to stop dwelling on what went wrong in 2024. It's very easy to get to the end of the year and focus on all the things that didn't go the way you wanted them to. And if you found yourself doing that and beating yourself up a little bit, you're not alone. And I think it's natural to do it, especially at this time of the year. And I think it's good to now have a little bit of different perspective on last year. So to help you do that, what I would love to do is, if you've got your notepad and pen handy, I'm going to give you about 60 seconds, and I would love you to write down what were all of the good things that happened in 2024, because we actually get what we look for. And so I would love if you could take a moment and just write down all of the things that were great that happened in the last year. And I will give you a little bit of music to do that. Give me one moment. A little bit of thinking music. Thank you so much, Shane, for telling me that I was on mute here. I was talking to myself. Now I've learned something new about Zoom today. If you're sharing music and then you stop the share, that it automatically mutes your microphone. So if you ever get stuck on that one again, then check the mute. But thank you for telling me. So thank you for taking the time to do that. What would be great now, I would love if you could share maybe one or two things that you had on your list. If you could share them in the chat, that would be really great to hear what have been some of the highlights and some of the wins of 2024 for you. Okay, Beth, getting published and starting ballet as a beginner adult. My gosh, they are two extraordinary things and two very different things. And starting ballet as an adult, like that's amazing. Well done. For Ray, the health was better. Vanessa, granddaughter was born. Daughter and family decided to move back to Brisbane. More opportunity at work. Finalised a property settlement and made new friends. My gosh, round of applause on all of these shares. This is great. Isaac, PMP certified, started a new role. Congratulations, Isaac. This is so good because I know so many people were saying 2024 was like one of the toughest years that a lot of people have had. But when we actually take the time to look for the positive, we really start to see that there are a lot of positives there. Megan, business is more consistent in unexpected market. Thank you. Good to see you, Megan. Shane, better health, a lot of time with loved ones, learned a lot from the last job. Sometimes some of these most challenging things can give us some lessons, that's for sure. So the list of writing all the positive things that happened last year is a variation of a tool that I use a lot, particularly at the end of the day. You know, a lot of the time you get to the end of the day and you dwell on all of the things that were on your to-do list that you haven't done. And so if you find yourself doing that, then a good strategy is to actually write down all the things you did do, whether they were on your list or not. And what I find very often is that the things that end up on the list of the things that you did do end up being either far more enjoyable, more effective. They sort of move things forward even better than maybe some of those little things that were on the list that you missed. So having a think about having a I did list rather than I didn't do list. And that can be a new lens in which that you look at your day at the end of it if you do find yourself beating yourself up. And look, what I've found personally over the course of my journey, particularly after I had the injury, is that, you know, in the course of every day, in the course of each month, in the course of each year, when I stopped dwelling on what I couldn't do or what I'd lost, and I started to focus on what I still had and I started to look forward, then life shifted and shifted in amazing ways. Because when you start to not see problems as problems, you can actually start to look at them as opportunities and as possibilities. And if you start to actually, rather than focus on the setbacks, you can actually look at how there has been success come from those opportunities. So you might be thinking that this is all just about goal setting today. It's going to be a part of it, but there's no point having a goal if you don't know what to do if your plan doesn't go to plan. And so, unfortunately, the ability to achieve goals or intentions is very low without 3 of the components that I'm going to share with you today. And in most goal setting exercises, you might just write down, here's a goal, here's an intention. But if you don't apply the 3 things that I share with you today, then it's nothing more than just writing down a few wishes and then kind of hoping that they come true. So my approach to goal setting, particularly when we're looking at a whole year, is rather than having a series of super specific goals, then I like to look at the year with an intention and summing up that intention in one word. So you've probably heard a lot of people talk about what's your word of the year or what's your theme for the year. And I really love the simplicity of that. Because it actually then gets you to look at things with an overarching intention. It kind of becomes like a bit of a filter or a guiding principle in which it helps you make decisions. So you may have already thought about what your word is for this year. If you have, I'd love for you to pop it in the chat. I'd really love to hear what your word is. And then also too, even if you've got your word, I'd love you to take just a moment or two to actually write down a little bit more about that word. So it could be, what does that word mean to you? Like, why have you chosen that word? Because the more detail you give to that, the more real it becomes. So again, I'd love for you to just take a moment and just write down a little bit more about that word. And also, if you haven't figured out what your word is, then we can take this time just to have a little bit of a ponder. Sometimes it may not be, you might have a few things that you're thinking that you'd like to achieve, and then maybe what it could be is going, well, what could be common from all of those things? And for me personally, my word for the year is creativity, because I've got a couple of creative projects, but then also I've decided that creativity doesn't just apply to a writing project or a musical project. I found that already it's applied to in the kitchen. So finding new recipes to do, finding ways to modify recipes. Gardening's been really fun for me. So it's finding ways to, be creative with, I'm in an apartment. What can I do with such a small space? And that's been really good too. So if you could pop in the chat, if you do have a word, I would love to hear what your word is. And yeah, we've just got a couple more people joining us. And yeah, I'd love to hear what your word of the year is. And also, have you, if you let me know in the chat as well, have you done this before? Have you had a word for years gone by as well? It's really interesting just to hear if people have done that. Patience. Oh, I love that, Vanessa. Peace. Ray, that's a great word as well. We've got a P theme going on here at the moment. So I'd love to hear if there's any more. We've got a few other people that have just joined us. So at the moment, what we're doing is we're looking at what is the one word that sums up our intention for 2025. Yeah, so that's it. Mine for last year was joy. And the music that I've been playing for you while you've been doing some activities is actually called Joy. So I thought I'd share that with you today. So yeah, if you want to have a bit of a ponder on that, it might be never done anything for that, the word of the year before, thinking about that. That's awesome. I'm glad that I've been able to give you something else, a different lens in which to look through the year ahead. And for those of you that have decided on your word, oh, that's cool. I'm glad this is new for some of you. So yeah, if you have chosen a word, I'd love for you to have a moment to think, if you were to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, on how much that word excites you when you think about it for the year ahead. And it'd be really cool to hear it. So one is, oh, look, it's a word. It doesn't really light me up at all. And 10 is, I am bursting out of my skin with excitement. And I feel that this is just going to really be a great thing for me this year. Okay, so we've got a 7. So there's a 7 there. I know that mine is pretty much probably a 9.5. Like, I'm really, really excited about creativity as a word. Impact. So Zhang's word's impact, and that's a 9. I'm loving that. We've got another 7 in the chat. So yeah, it'd be good to hear what people are thinking there. And again, if you haven't thought about your word, then just maybe make a note of it, as this being the next step for when you do consider what that word is, and just that filter in which to look through it. And I think if you're finding that you're not sort of over 7, then maybe have a little bit of a rethink about the word and see if it really does inspire you enough to be a word that you feel that can carry you through the year. The other thing that I have done more recently is not only just looking at the year through the lens of a singular focused intention, is what's really helped me as well is having that intention without an attachment to it. Because so often we put so much emphasis or so much energy into things that it actually then becomes heavy, and it becomes a pressure, and it doesn't become positive for us. So I think if you can have a think about when you are thinking about this word, but also holding it with intention, but then letting go of any attachment. And that really helps it to be something that is light and helps us as a guiding principle as we move through our lives, and this year particularly. So far we've had a really good look back at the year. We've let go of what's gone wrong, and now we have also had a look at what is the intention for the year ahead. So now I'd love to get in with you about what are the key things that you're going to need to do with that intention to make sure that you actually then have that experience through your year, and what you do to help that intention turn this into your best year yet. So there's 3 key things that I've found personally and with working with others, that are going to help make sure that these things happen for you. So the first thing is rather than just focus on the intention itself, because sometimes it can become really big and it might be a little bit overwhelming, going, oh my gosh, well, what does that actually mean? Is to actually focus on what are the little actions that you can do on a consistent basis that will help you then to embody that intention. And that will then help you on that, whether it's a daily action, a weekly, a monthly, or, just something that does happen consistently over time. Because the thing is, if we break it down to what's something simple that you can do on a consistent basis, that becomes controllable. And an overall outcome over the course of a year is difficult to control. But if we then look at, well, what can we control? So I'd love you to have a think about, if you do have your word, is what's one thing that you can do on a consistent basis that will help you to embody and embrace that, that word. So for me, being creativity, one of my things that I really want to do this year is to record and perform some music. So for me, the thing that I can do on a consistent basis is I can sing more, whether it's just singing other people's songs, or whether it's actually focusing on, doing the scales and the boring stuff that none of us like doing. But that's my thing that I can do on a consistent basis to then help me become better as a singer. And then when it is time to record and perform, then that will help me to hopefully have that great creative outcome, and also an outcome that is enjoyable to other people as well. So I'd love to hear if you have got something that you can do on a consistent basis, if you want to pop it in the chat. Also, if you are finding that you're not really clear on that yet, just pop a note in your notebook as well, and just go one consistent action that you can do to help you embody and embrace the theme that you and the word you've set for yourself. And it's looking at, again, what's the simplest thing you can do. And I like to look at it particularly is like, when you go to the gym, you're going and you're finding all of these really simple exercises that you're doing on a consistent basis. But when you do those things repetitively, consistently over time, there's a compounding effect that then leads to that improvement. And so that's what we're looking for here. So embracing what is the one thing that you could do. There's probably lots of things, but I really like to go start simple. What's one thing? And then hopefully you've got a couple of those. If there's anything you want to share, feel free to share at any time. Stop dealing with Bitcoin exchanges and brokers. That's super stressful. And also, I think the other thing is even just, I think with anything like that, it's actually logging in every day and looking at the charts and seeing the wild fluctuations can cause so much stress. So, and then find some other things to improve in life. Yeah. I think it's important to do more of the things that actually make you feel better and really try and minimize the things that cause stress as well. Yeah, so that's really good. So hopefully you've got something that's going to be helpful for you there to move forward. And yeah, so one of those things, and make sure that it inspires you. The other thing is that I'd like you to think about, once you have found what's that consistent thing that you can do, is I'd like you to find what is a way that you can reward yourself for doing that one thing. Because sometimes it can be hard to actually motivate ourselves to do these things. But if you can find a little reward that you can do, so you do that thing. So for me, it could be, okay, I'm going to do a vocal warm up, or I'm going to sing a song or two. My reward is a little bit obscure and a little bit funny, I think. I love an app on my iPhone that is called Song Pop. And it's just guess the songs as fast as possible. And it's really simple, but it's something that I can probably get lost in. So if I tie it to, I can do that after I've completed something that I need to do in order to move myself forward, then it becomes a more enjoyable reward. So I'd love to know if you've got something that you can do to reward yourself for doing the thing that is going to be that consistent action for you in order to get closer to that intention you've set for yourself. So yeah, I'd love to hear, what are your rewards? Because it's funny though, because a lot of the rewards we give ourselves, they're often things that may distract or disrail us otherwise. And so if they're things that could potentially be distractions, then it'd be really nice if you can go, well, if I actually do the thing that I need to first, then it doesn't actually become a distraction. It becomes a reward. It's kind of like when we were kids and we weren't allowed to have dessert unless we ate all of our dinner. So it's like, what's going to be the dessert and what's going to be the dinner, that eat your vegetables type of thing that's going to help you to get closer to where you need to be. And so that's the first step. First step you need to do is just make sure that you've broken things down into the controllable things, something you can do in a consistent basis. And then what you can do to help that is to have some kind of thing to motivate you. So that reward at the end of it. So that's the first thing we can do. The second thing we need to do in order to make sure that you stay the path and you stick with this intention, even when the challenges happen, is you need to have some resilience. Because often people will have an intention or a goal, and as soon as something doesn't go wrong, that something doesn't go to plan, then they just give up. It's so much easier to give up than to go, oh, how do I then come back and go back and get on the horse, so to say, get back on the horse, so to say. So it's actually thinking about that. And, Mike Tyson had a very famous quote that said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And I know it's quite a bit of a brutal and confronting thing, but we proverbially get punched in the face day to day on varying levels. So it's important then to have the resilience to be able to then stay the path. And so it's about being prepared. And so it could be even just thinking about, well, what are some of the things that could potentially derail you? And it might be just take a couple of notes. If you know some of the things that you feel is going to get in the way of you being able to embody the intention you've set for the year, it's really good to actually get those out, pop them to paper. And it's interesting because I know it's like the ancient Stoics used to do, is they used to talk about a lot. They used to think about, well, what's the worst possible outcome? And if they're prepared for that, then it takes the energy and the fear out of it as well. And so we don't want to go looking for, or creating problems, but the more that we're aware of what they could be and that we're prepared for them, then the impact of if they do happen it's minimized. So if you can do that and then combine that with resilience, it's going to set you up to be more successful than you could have been if you just said, here's my intention and let's just run with it. So when it comes to resilience is my specialty. And it's the kind of thing that you need to have before you need to use it. It's like the old adage about needing to dig your well before you're thirsty. And it's a skill. Resilience is a skill. Some people used to say, oh, it's something you naturally have or you don't, but it's a skill that can be learned like anything else. And going back to the gym as a reference point, you go to the gym and you do those consistent things over time to build physical strength. And resilience is exactly the same. There are simple rituals that you can do consistently over time that will build your capacity for resilience, so that when something does go wrong, you actually are in a position to be able to respond to it rather than react and get thrown off course. And so I've got a little bit different perspective on resilience. I like to see resilience as something that is how we actually grow through being challenged rather than just going through it. I see it as probably 75% proactive rather than just how do we actually react and respond. And in the work I've done over the last sort of 12 years or so, as an expert in this space, I feel that resilience, particularly in a business environment, has become synonymous with coping. And like coping, I think is the sort of the lowest point of resilience. It's like, okay, how do we cope? But I like to see it as how do we actually learn and grow and become stronger also as a result of being challenged. And, so it's looking about, how can we actually thrive rather than just survive? I know it's such a cliche that thrive rather than survive, but it is. But if you actually find some of these rituals, I'm going to share a couple with you now. If you do those, you've got control over them. You can do those consistently, and then you'll have that resilience in your store for when things do go wrong. And look, I know I would say probably 9 times out of 10, if I find myself overwhelmed or frustrated or really in a bit of a rut, feeling a bit restless, if I then go and check in with the rituals for resilience, those proactive things, I usually find that I've dropped the ball on those. And I want to help you to be able to see challenges and problems and obstacles. I want to help you to see those as positive things. And one of the simplest things you can do when something doesn't go to plan is actually look at the language that you're using. Because the language that you use in your conversations with others, but also most importantly in your conversations you have with yourself, is one of the quickest ways that you can actually turn things around. Because wherever possible, if you can emphasize the positive and try and take the drama out of the negative, then it can be really helpful. Because some of the most negative conversations that happen are the ones that we have with ourselves. And really, if we spoke to the people that we loved and we cared about and the people around us the way that we speak to ourselves, like we would end up very lonely people. So being very conscious of the words we use. For instance, your favorite sports team losing is not devastating. But that didn't go down well when I spoke for an AFL club or for an NRL club. Like they beg to differ on that one. But really, the things that are truly devastating are, losing loved ones, natural disasters, having your life changed in irreversible ways. So being very conscious of the words, because the words we have the power to build up or tear down. So having some awareness about that. And one of the rituals that I find really helpful to help you become more aware of the language you're using is journaling. I'd love to hear if anyone here has kept a journal before. Can you pop a J in the chat if you've kept a journal anytime? There's a no. but yeah, journaling, there's a J, there's a no. So we've got a bit of a mixture here so far today. So what I love about journaling is it gives you the opportunity to actually look at your thoughts on paper or on a screen if you do use an electronic thing. It helps you to have that little bit of a self-awareness and to be able to see, are you using language that is actually putting more drama into a challenge than what is actually there? So journaling is one of my rituals for resilience. It's something that I've found so powerful that I haven't missed a night in over 9.5 years now. It's that much of a non-negotiable, and I've found it so beneficial. And it started out when I first started was just to capture what was the best thing that happened in the day. Much like we took a moment to look at what were the best things that happened in 2024. If we take a moment at the end of the day just to capture what was one thing that happened in the day that was actually really positive. And because we get what we look for. So if we can start to condition ourselves to look for the positive, we're going to see more of it. So it's really helpful as far as that goes. The other thing, a lot of people say, look, I don't know how to journal, or I can't write, or I'm not a good writer. I don't know what to write. And so when I usually get people to start with journaling, I suggest that they start with writing one sentence. And so the prompt that I like to use is, today I had the opportunity to. So if you just at the end of each day wrote, today I had the opportunity to, and just completed the sentence, that would be something that could be really powerful for you to actually start using this to build your resilience over time, particularly looking at how you describe things that are happening in your world. Because how you describe situations is how you experience the situation. So often you can say, oh, something was awful, it was devastating, it was terrible, it was horrible. And really, it might have been disappointing, or it might have been, unfortunate. And it's even when you think about the words you use. So how many times do you go, oh, I have to do something? And then if you actually just swap that word have to for get to. So instead of saying, I have to do, this particular thing. So, oh, geez, I have to submit this report tomorrow. You can turn around and go, oh, I get to submit this report tomorrow. And even when you say those words, have to feels heavy. It feels like a pressure. Get to sounds like an opportunity, and it's lighter, and it even sits lighter in your body. So just being really, really conscious of the words you use and the impact of it. So as far as the journaling goes now, because it's such a non-negotiable for me, it's at the end of the day now, I use it to debrief. I might capture things. I might reflect on the day. And one of the things I really love is it empties my head before I go to bed, because then it stops that laying there and thinking and overthinking, because I've already got most of those thoughts out of my head. And I used to joke about it, but I would say now, over the years that I've been journaling, it's probably saved me tens of thousands in therapy, because I've been able to actually externalize the stuff that was ruminating in my head. And look, even if you're feeling like absolute rubbish, choosing more positive words is going to be helpful, because choosing more positive words actually changes your energy as well. It changes the way your body responds. And the other thing is, it doesn't mean that you completely ignore negative thoughts, negative feelings. What you do is then you use those as feedback. And so use it as feedback that something isn't where you want it to do, and sit with it for a little bit. I think one of the biggest mistakes I made over the years is I was very quick to go next, 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 instead of going, okay, what is this that I'm feeling, and actually sit with the feeling. Because if we actually sit with feelings for a bit, we actually then, we can move through them. But if we actually then try and push them away, then they're going to bubble away under the surface, and eventually they're probably going to explode, and it's going to have a bigger impact than if you had actually had a sat and felt with them for a little bit. So yeah, I found that that's been, super helpful as far as the journaling goes. But if I look back to the years after the accident, like it was really a challenging time. And for my high school years, like my coping mechanism was getting drunk and getting stoned, and that was great, those moments of artificial happiness. I sort of look at them now. But in between, they sort of led to sort of deeper pits of feeling, despair and anxiety and resentment, and all that stuff was directed at myself. And now when I look at it as like, well, physically I drowned once, emotionally I was drowning every single day. And sometimes you might feel that too, that you might find that it's just in the day-to-day that you feel like you might be drowning in the overwhelm because there's so much stuff going on. And especially, if those of you that might be doing some work from home and stuff, there's such a blurry line between what's business, what's work, what's family, what's personal. And so that can make it really difficult as well. But look, I hear that feeling from most people. And, if I had have had my opportunity back then, if I had been able to turn back the clock, I would have not taken that dive, or at my lowest points, I probably wouldn't have wanted to have been around at all. But eventually I found that music became something that helped me to be able to, I think really it kept me alive during the lowest points in my life. It gave me a way to express myself that I didn't have the words to. And being the age that I am, I was really fortunate to be at the lowest points in my life in the early to mid 90s, which was the height of grunge, which was the most angry, angsty music that there was. And it was a perfect soundtrack to my life at the time. Eventually, I started going and seeing live music, and that just was amazing. There was the energy in the room, but there was a sense of community and connection with the other people there. And it's just been, it was probably only in the last few years when we couldn't go and see live music that I actually began to realize what an impact it had in my life. So now music is a ritual for resilience as well. There's music that you can use to pump you up. There's music you can use to calm you down. And what I'd love for you to do is have a moment to think about, if you needed to lift up your energy, what's a song that you could play in order to, that as soon as that song comes on, that it makes you feel more energetic, more inspired, more positive, more motivated. And I'd love to hear in the chat what that song could be for you, because we're going to start using some of this stuff intentionally. And it could be that you might have got an important call to make, or, see you're unstoppable. That's definitely an incredible resilience song. So yeah, having a think about that, and what kind of song could you play? Bohemian Rhapsody. Oh my gosh, yes. And I can't hear Bohemian Rhapsody without thinking about Wayne's World in the head banging in the car. Amazing Grace, what a beautiful, beautiful song. Like, that is definitely uplifting. Walking on Sunshine, thanks Mel. Katrina and the Waves. These are definitely songs that are really, really powerful, that help to shift the energy really, really quickly as well. So I'd like for you to think about this now. And if you don't already have that song quickly accessible, I'd love for you to find a way to get that on your phone, particularly, so that you can then start to use that intentionally. On the flip side, there are times where you're so wired, so stressed, so wound up that you actually need to try and dial the energy back a little bit. And so this is another place where music can be really powerful as well. So I would love for you to have a think about, well, what's a song that you could play in order to bring that energy back? And it's so interesting. I find that it's really easy to find the pump up songs, but sometimes it can be a little bit more challenging to find the songs to help us chill out. Oh, Make My Own Sunshine, Chelsea Basham. I don't know that. Oh my gosh. I love doing these sessions because I get to learn about all new music, and I'm a bit of a new music nerd, so I like that. But I like that you've got Sunshine in both of those, Mel. So I think Sunshine's always a winner, regardless of whether it's to pump us up or to chill us out. So have a think about that. And what I love about music is, I don't know any other way that can shift our energy as quickly as playing a song and really feeling into that song. 3 to 5 minutes, we can make a huge difference in our energy. And what you can do with the music, you can sing along to the song, you can move with the song, you can dance. I know a lot of the time, sometimes when I mention dance, some people go, "Oh, I don't like dancing. So I'll go, well, how about some shadow boxing or something to it as well, which I often do because, again, gets the heart pumping. And I find that that's really, really helpful. So there's some song, another Sunshine, Liam Payne from the movie Ron's Gone Wrong. Oh my gosh, I've got some new music to check out. So if you don't already have that easily accessible Somewhere Over the Rainbow, what a wonderful world. Beautiful, beautiful songs. I've also curated a playlist on Spotify called Resilience Rocks. And it's got a whole stack of more of the pump up and, dealing with some of the challenges, those type of songs. But I really appreciate the songs that you've shared there. There's some really, really good stuff there. So into my 20s, I began to actually realize that the accident, the injury, how my life had changed was actually a positive thing. And I realized that really I couldn't change what had happened, but I could change the story about what I told about what happened, and I could change what I did next. And now most people think, how the heck can ending up a quadriplegic and needing a wheelchair for the rest of your life be positive? But when people spend time with me, they quickly realize that I am truly grateful and appreciative of all of the wonderful things that have happened in my life that I can say now with absolute certainty would never have happened had my life taken the path that I'd intended it back then. And it actually just came down to a choice. Was I going to let it ruin my life or make my life better? And then eventually that became a deep sense of gratitude. Because the thing is, if you spend too much time dwelling on the past, that's where depression lives. And if you spend too much time worrying about the future, that's where anxiety lives. And gratitude's something that can really bring you back into the moment, and it can be really simple. Now, a lot of people have mentioned, keeping a gratitude journal. Pop a G in the chat if you've ever kept a gratitude journal of any form. And a gratitude journal is where you would just write down, 3, 5, 7, 10, however many things each day that you're grateful for. It's something that I tried for a while and it felt a bit wanky to me. It sort of felt like a chore. It felt like a bit of an obligation, and it didn't create the experience of gratitude that I was looking for. So over time, I tried some different things, and what I found worked for me was a gratitude mantra. And the beauty of a mantra is it's something that you don't have to go looking for. It's just something you recite, whether you say it out loud, whether you say it in your head, whether you write it down. And for me, my gratitude mantra is thank you for the opportunity to be who I am, where I am, with what I have at this moment in time. Thank you for the opportunity to be who I am, where I am, with what I have at this moment in time. I use that of a night before I fall asleep. So lights out. And I say that to myself with my eyes closed so that I'm programming my brain for subconscious for gratitude over the night. I say it in the morning when the alarm goes off. So I hit stop, not snooze, hit stop. And I take that moment to say that. And throughout the day, if I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed or restless or off track, I'll take a couple of deep breaths and I'll say that to myself again. And I just find that, it takes 7 to 9 seconds, depending on how fast you talk or think. And it just brings you back into the moment. And I've got other mantras and I've got them on a little card. And if you'd like, I can post you one of these cards if you like to pop in your purse, your wallet, or in your phone. And it's just got 4 different mantras there. And so that can be really helpful because the ultimate thing about gratitude is to create an experience of gratitude. You can also practice situational gratitude, which is like during the day, you actually then pay attention to things that are happening. It might be, in the shower in the morning, actually being very conscious of the feeling and the sensation of the warmth of the water running over your body and being grateful for that. It could even just be going, oh my gosh, isn't it just complete amazement that we're even alive at all? Like, how does this stuff all work? Nature is fascinating. So the main thing is finding something that works for you that helps you create an experience of gratitude that is really simple. Because the gratitude's an abundant energy. It's an open energy. It's an energy of possibility and creation and possibility. And then if you are overwhelmed, that energy is closed. It's constricted. It makes you shrink. So it's all about trying to find that. So that's 3 aspects of resilience that I've shared with you there. So it's the language, so the journaling, it's the music, and then it's the mantra. So there's 3 things there that you could use straight away that can help you to build your resilience. Before we get into the final parts of this session, I'd love to know, have you got any questions that you want me to cover? So feel free to pop any questions in the chat. Also, if you don't have a question, feel free to share what's been most useful for you so far. And I might just pop a little bit of the thinking music on just for 30, 60 seconds if you want to just think about any questions or what's been helpful so far. I'm just going to go and get a drink of water, and then I will be back with you in just a few moments. Let me just get the music back, and I will remember when I come back that I need to unmute. So thank you for letting me know last time. Okay, welcome back. So a couple of comments in the chat. Learned is to push on. Yeah, look, pushing on is important, but the main thing is to stop along the way and feel some of the things that are happening along the way, and being aware of being intentional about some of these resilience practices. Learn to rise above who or what is bringing me down. Yeah, the who part's definitely a big part, and in some of the other resilience stuff I go a little bit deeper into the importance of the people that we have around us and how that they can either lift us up or pull us back. So that's really good. Learn the journal question today. I had the opportunity, and changing I had to I get to. So that's awesome. Innate positivity was enough for resilience, but I've now learned that resilience is a skill and that I can train and grow to be even more proactive with it. Fantastic. Yeah, because sometimes it's I've questioned myself sometimes. It's like, oh, can we be too positive or too resilient? So I think it's really important to just have that awareness about those things. And so we've talked about resilience as one of those factors. We've talked about putting the year behind us and having that single focus of intention. So the third thing that's going to help you to make this the best year yet is accountability. And so there's different levels of accountability. So I just want to briefly share some of the different levels of accountability. So the first level of accountability is having accountability to yourself. And, sometimes you might set yourself a deadline, or you might put something in a calendar, or you might just say to yourself, I'm going to do this specific thing by this time. And it's just a matter of going, holding yourself accountable. But it's usually the first thing that people try. And it's often something that is, we're really good at letting ourselves down, and we're really good at lying to ourselves at times, or rationalizing why we didn't get something done. And even the word rationalize, if you break it into 2, it's rational lies. So, it's lying to ourselves at times. So sometimes you might have just, popped a reminder somewhere. And I know that one of my habits, if I get in that zone, is, if you use Google Calendar and if I haven't done something, it's just so easy to drag it into the next day and just tell you, oh yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. Please tell me I'm not the only one that does that. But there's those things that happen sometimes. So that's the first level of accountability, is keeping yourself accountable. it's also the one that is the least likely to succeed consistently over time. And so it's thinking about that. So that's the first level. And then even just, going, are my actions a reflection of the intentions? Oh, good. I'm glad I'm not the only one that's dragged those things around in the calendar. Or you might write yourself a to-do list. Have you ever actually then added things to your list that you've already done and crossed them out because it feels really good to cross something out? Oh my gosh, I see that I'm not the only one. Again, thank you thank you for letting me know that other people do these things too. So the second level of accountability is having accountability to a friend or a peer. And that I've done this over time too, and with different things. And pretty much that could be, just getting together on a regular basis and saying, hey, by this time, then I want to do this. But just saying to them, I want to do this. That has a better degree of success than just trying to keep yourself accountable. But it seems to drift over time, because especially if it's just a friend, you're kind of not as hard on each other as other people might be. So the longer that sort of stuff happens, it usually diminishes over time. So I'm not sure if anyone's tried that too. I can get, someone just asked if I can get they can get the transcript of the video. I can absolutely share that with you with the recording. The next one is accountability with a mentor. So this would most likely be with an unpaid mentor. And we'll go into mentorships on future trainings as well. But this could be where you would get together with a mentor on a regular basis. You would maybe ask some specific questions about some challenges you're having. And typically a mentor is going to be somebody that has done what you want to do. And so you could then meet with them, you can ask them what to do, and then you would then go back to them once you've done that thing and said, so I've done this is what's happened, what do I do next? Or you ask different questions. A lot of the time people then don't go back to that mentor because they haven't done the thing that the mentor told them to do. And so that has that often wanes over time too. Like there might be some initial enthusiasm, but over time that does have a tendency to wane as well. And so it depends on the degree of discipline that you have and the degree of discipline the commitment you have. Then the fourth level that I found that has been most successful has been with a coach or a paid mentor. And if that coach or the mentor has a community as part of that, then I found that that's been super, super helpful. And that would be in a paid arrangement. Because when you pay attention, and often the more you pay, the more effort you put into it, because it's so easy if something's free to just go, oh yeah, I just won't worry about it. But I'm sure you've had those things. Maybe it's, you've got tickets to something and it's pouring rain and you think, oh my gosh, I don't want to go out. But if you've paid for it, you'll go. If it was free, a lot of the time you're just going to go, I'm not going to worry about it. So, and this was what one of my business coaches over the years, Craig, he said to me, he said, it's being accountable to somebody that you deeply do not want to disappoint. And so that can be a really key factor in helping you find that right coach, community, paid mentorship for you. And look, I wouldn't be a speaker today if I didn't have a coach that helped me with speaking. I wouldn't have published a book if I didn't have a coach that helped me with the book. And over the last, 4 or 5 years, I worked with a relationship coach as well, because that was something. And I'm now 4 years into a relationship that is amazing and come as a result of working with that coach. And so having that weekly check-in, accountability, being told what to do next, that stuff was really, really helpful. The other beauty of working in a group, because a lot of people sort of feel that perhaps it's more valuable to have a one-on-one coach than it is to actually work in a community. The beauty of working in a community is people often ask questions that you didn't realize you wanted to know the answer to as well. So you get to learn from the experiences of others, and also too, sometimes when you've got a really good community, I really find that they become sort of cheerleaders, and sometimes people can actually help and support each other. And then as a coach or a mentor, sometimes you can step back and then let people then help each other. And that's been really good. Also, if you've got a community where there's a bit of friendly collaboration and competition, that can be really helpful as well. And I find that a lot of people particularly if you are working remotely, or perhaps that you run your own business, a lot of the time, if you're alone, a lot of the time, then it can be really helpful to find ways to then connect in with people, and then have that sense of that. And look, a real big goal for me over the last few years was to create connected communities. And I did, a couple of years ago, I started the Academy of Resilience Inner Circle, which has just been amazing, getting together with a great group of people, yeah, a great group of people on a consistent basis. So, and what I'd love to do today is I would love to invite you to join the Inner Circle. It can help you to go deeper on this. You could do all this on your own, but to be able to actually have the coaching, the connection, the accountability. So the Inner Circle is a group that gets together. Up until today, it's been once a week, but from next week, there's going to be 2 calls a week that make it more accessible for different time zones and people's working commitments. And up until today, the membership's been $397 a month or $2,997 for the year. And to make it as accessible as I possibly can, I have reduced that to being able to do $100 a week. This is all Australian dollars too. So I don't know about you, but I have signed up for things in the past and then thought it's Australian dollars. And then I got my credit card statement and had a heart attack. But $100 a week, or there is an annual option now for $1,500, which is a 50% discount on the best price that's ever been offered before. If that's something you'd like to join me in, and being able to have that community and have me help you on a regular basis, you can go to academyofresilience.com.au. I'll pop that link in the chat. And if you scroll to the bottom of the page, you'll see the new pricing options there. The group that I've been working with for the last couple of years, I've had some really incredible results, and they're actually really excited to be able to have some new people come and join us. I'm just putting it in the chat, and I just had I cannot type properly. And yeah, so again, this is all the stuff that you can do on your own, but if you are looking for that extra bit of help and you're looking for some community, so academyresilience.com.au, and then you can scroll to the bottom of the page. If that link's not clickable, let me know. It doesn't look like it's clickable. Yeah, so yeah, and so just to recap with that, you'll get weekly check-ins, Q&A, mentoring with me, some content sessions throughout the year as well. But again, I'd love to see you there. Also, you can totally do all the stuff we've shared today on your own as well if you want to do that. So a bit of a recap, what we've gone through today. We've looked back at last year, we've looked at the highlights, we've looked at the wins, and we've looked at what's your intention for the year. You've now got your 3 components to help you be able to make this your best year yet. We've talked about the levels of accountability and how that can really help you to stay the course on that. Yeah, and then you've got your thing that you can do on a consistent basis. But before we wrap up, I'd just love to bring it all together to make this real for you. I'd love you to consider what's the one thing that you can do after this call today to actually start moving towards that intention that you've set for the year. So feel free to pop that in the chat. What's the one thing that you could do on the back of this to be able to do that? The other thing to consider as well is, it's a question that a coach called Dan Sullivan came up with. Yeah, writing things down is also super helpful. He came up with this question and he said, if you and I were to meet a year from today, what would have needed to have happened for you over the year, professionally and personally, to have made it your best year yet? So if we were to meet again in a year's time, what would have needed to have happened for you professionally and personally for it to be your best year yet? And I might just give you just a very, very brief bit of time to actually ponder that question, because it can be really powerful to think about that. I'm just going to give you a little bit of music and Okay, welcome back, everybody. Yeah, this is great. So we've got confident and positive thoughts, a good passive income. It's really nice to just think about that and put ourselves a year in the future and think about, well, what would we like to have happened that could help us to have to say that intention you set for the year was a successful outcome for you. That could be something that would be good for you to ponder. If you're looking for a way to start a journal, alongside the today I had the opportunity to, then pondering that question could be a really good one to reflect on, not just today, but at different points in the year as well. Helped my daughter to buy a place and bought a unit for myself, worked through with a promotion and a pay rise. Oh my gosh, that's good. And the more specific that you can be with this stuff, then the more that it's our subconscious brains are really, really powerful. And if we can be very clear on what those things look like, then it's incredible how things seem to just cross our paths that help us to get there. So just coming back to wrap up, thank you so much for the time you spent today. I know we've got slightly over time. If you did need to leave, then the recording is going to be with you also to go back over. But look, having a brush with death and losing the ability to walk has meant that I don't take anything for granted anymore. Not only do I appreciate fully every day that I now have this burning desire to be able to see more, do more, be more, and to give more. And I'd love nothing more than to ignite that desire in you and for it to not come from a crisis in your life. And so today, the tools I've given you, the word that you're going to work with, these things are going to create such a great foundation in order to be able to have a great foundation to respond to challenges and adversity and change. And the key thing is that you need to apply these things. So you've got your first step. So pop that in the calendar and do that. So look, there you have it, the crazy story of my life so far, and being able to succeed over and over again in times of challenge and things not going to plan. But there's actually nothing extraordinary about me. So often people come up to me after a session or a keynote or anything like that, and they go, "Stace, that was so inspiring. This is amazing, but I could never do that." The reality is I'm no different than you. I haven't had resources along my journey. I've just been incredibly resourceful, and I've applied the rituals for resilience to give me the resilience and the confidence to say yes to opportunities and to know that I'll be great even if things don't go to plan. So when you leave here today and something doesn't go to plan, I want you to stop for a moment. I want you to stop and be grateful for where you are and what you have and who you are. I want you to get excited about what's ahead. And I want you to remember whether that situation is an opportunity or obstacle, a problem or a possibility is completely your choice. And that I would like you to also think about that following through with your plan, with accountability and great community to support you, then anything you set your mind to is possible. So thank you so much for coming and joining with me today. Thank you so much for the messages. It's been really, really helpful. Hopefully I will see some of you in the inner circle. The first calls will be this week, academyofresilience.com.au. Scroll to the bottom for that. I really appreciate you doing this. And I will send out the recordings so you'll have access to that for the next few days if you want to go through it. I know we covered a lot of ground, but thank you. Thank you so much. It's wonderful. And yeah, let me know how you go. Keep in touch. And until I talk to you next time, be your best.